It's a,
Okay.
I believe it's a carpentry handyman business. He's got a van.
Okay.
He's got a 30-yard roll-off in his yard. It's been there a long time. And two of the adjoining neighbors, possibly the third neighbor, the A-frame, but they haven't come forward, are upset because the dumpster doesn't get emptied for quite a long time, and they watch him throw household bags of trash in there, and it stays there for a long, long time. And when they do empty it, as we all know, the truck comes in with an empty can, and it's town property right near this residence. He dumps the empty can right in front of one of the neighbor's house, and it's a dirt pothole filled parking lot, very loud, and it's quite a fiasco. It takes a long time, according to her, to do the swap. And when he picks up the second one, because it's been there so long, pulls up in front of her house, and it's spewing nasty water in front of her driveway, in front of her yard, to do the swap. So she's asked us about our dumpster regulations. Currently, we do not have any dumpster regulations. So I'm hoping that you might be able to give us a little bit of your knowledge to tell us bullet points. What kind of things should we be listing? Also, enforcement. How can we enforce it?
I mean, that's a tough one, Andy, because we can, if you remove it quickly, then you don't have that water. Where he's sitting on probably a larger dumpster than what he needs because he's doing it because he knows he's getting a cheaper price. You're going to get that runoff from the water. Massachusetts hasn't really enforced a act where we need to cover these dumpsters yet. So it's really, there's not a lot of enforcement from our end yet until DEP steps in and says, now those dumpsters need to be covered all the time so there is no rainwater or runoff from that rainwater.
Quick question. Let me interject for a minute. First of all, do you believe that that's coming from DEP eventually?
I do not know for sure that will come. I know Connecticut has already done that. Connecticut has enforced that if you got a 30-yarder sitting on your property, you have to have a covered dumpster. It has to be under an enclosure. It has to be a covered one. So Connecticut has already done that. I'm not sure Massachusetts is ready to do that yet, but I do not know for a fact that that's not coming yet.
Certainly, we could do that on our own, above and beyond any regulations that is out there. We could make it amendment stipulation. That's a good point.
Yep. I mean,
That's
and you could.
That opens the door for a lot of. I mean, everybody shouldn't suffer just because of one bad apple, which is going to put a lot of.
Especially where he lives in a neighborhood and he's not, in a business climate where, if they're picking up and swapping it, it's not affecting anybody but a business community. If he lives in a neighborhood, that's something you look at a little different, because he does have neighbors that are being affected. And the fact that they're swapping it means that they're trying to be as effective as they are, whoever the company is. So they're trying to do a switch so that they can pick one up, put one down, and remove it. But in reality, that all that water, instead of running on his property, is now running on someone else's property.
Exactly. Alan, have you noticed the name?
I have not noticed the name on the dumpster. I believe it was a brown dumpster. He's been doing this for tens of years. I believe when I talked to him last, he does have a permit for an in-home business. But I don't remember the name on the dumpster. It could be, I thought it was brown. So BP maybe?
I think she said it the night she was here. She was on our call. Does that sound right, Missy?
Yep.
BP Trucking?
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I believe they're out of Ashland.
Do they have a permit to be in town, Missy? Are they all set to be permitted to be in town?
Yep.
Okay, all right. And like you say, it's really the fact that because of where they're located in Ashland. So because of where they're located, they're really not going to want to do a dump and return where they're going to pick that dumpster up off his property, bring it to the disposal site, and bring it back. They're really looking to do a switch, which is going to be more cost effective for BP, but it's going to be more cumbersome on the neighbors because they're putting that container down on, in the road or somebody else's property that the water's running out. And like you say, if we've got a ton of rain, then all that water runs out and it just makes a mess on somebody else's property.
Exactly what we're facing, what she's upset about. Is it, first of all, I think I heard that it is illegal to throw household trash, garbage in a 30-yarder. Is that correct?
No, that is not correct, Andy. You can, when you rent a 30-yard dumpster, depending upon what the contract is, you can throw anything you want in that. There are stipulations, like if you throw a stove or a mattress or something that's difficult to manage, there'll be an extra charge. But really, once you rent that dumpster, you can put whatever you want in it. Household trash, construction and demolition, miscellaneous pieces that you got from the house, which would be considered bulk in the eyes of Mendon. But you could put anything you want in that contract, and there is nothing that separates it except for where you bring it for disposal.
Okay. That's interesting because I remember somebody saying, I believe it was at our meeting, wasn't it, Missy? Somebody said it was illegal.
Yeah, the woman that was on last time complaining, she said she had talked to someone, I believe, from Waste Management, and they told her it was illegal.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So that's a contradiction right there. That's good.
So what happens is every hauling company has their own restrictions on what you're allowed to put in. So I just took over Gardner, and Gardner, which was Waste Management Company, wouldn't allow them to put construction or bulky items in their open tops. Where when we bring it to our transfer station, that's considered, we can blend it and we can separate it and we can do it. So in reality, that's just a by company what they can restrict to the container and say, no, we don't want residential trash in our open tops. That's strictly done by the company. That's not done by anything that would be DEP regulated or anything like that.
Okay. Have you heard, or do you deal with any towns that have regulations on open tops?
I used to when I dealt with Connecticut as far as my open top, but because now I'm basically dealing with all residential, I have not heard any of my towns on residential complaining about open tops or rainwater runoff in Massachusetts.
Okay. Just a quick point before I go to Missy. Did you happen to catch the story a week or two about the other guys over in Webster?
Yes, I did. And I thought I was smiling the whole time, Andy. Just so you know.
Missy, go ahead.
I just want to let you know that Tom Ryder is on, and we have someone with the initials GS as a guest. I don't know who that is, but I just wanted to let you know who was on right now.
Thank you. Hi, Tom. Would the mystery person like to identify themselves, please? Please identify yourself. Okay. Missy, would you read what's of all the surrounding towns that you've checked with to our town? What's the nearest one that you found a regulation for open tops?
So I just want to let you know that GS sent a message saying that they're just a resident listening in. So I haven't read their regulations completely, but the ones that I've looked at that actually have dumpster regulations, I just looked at one briefly for West Boylston, and Millville has a dumpster regulation. Upton has a dumpster regulation. But Uxbridge and Northbridge, Northbridge has a dumpster, but those two towns word it a little bit differently because they don't have town service, so everyone has to hire their own private contractor. So it's a little bit different. So I would probably look at the Millville is the closest one in Upton.
And do any of them require permits?
I haven't gotten that far, but I would assume they would be some kind of permitting because, they want you to, some of them requires, the name of the company on there, phone numbers, all that stuff. So I'm assuming that they would require an awful permit.
So
Alan, what were you
Millville
saying
is,
about Millville?
I'm sorry, it was me, Andy. Millville is
Oh,
also
okay.
a subscription town. They are no longer a municipal town, so they have their own regulations. They disbanded the curbside pickup on the municipalities, and they have allowed everybody to choose their own waste hauler. So Millville's a little different. It's kind of like an Uxbridge and a Northbridge. The only one that has a municipal contract is the town of Upton, which I also manage, and I do not know of any regulations under theirs or wastewater or anything like that when I deal with the town of Upton.
AJ,
Yes, sir.
I
Al?
did mention this to Missy. I remember a number of years ago, I probably read it in an issue of the Crier, that Upton was doing something because they were concerned about, and they used the term dumpster juice. So I did mention that to Misty, that when she, went looking, she might find something in the town of Upton, but I don't remember how long ago it was. It seems like it was quite a while ago. And I don't remember, what department was looking into that, but they were looking to kind of solve that issue. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
All righty. Missy, what are you seeing? I mean, could you tell us what some of these regulations are in other towns?
So quickly, I pulled up the town of Upton's, and looking at their definition, it says, shall mean any container, receptacle, compactor, unit, trailer, roll-off, or any other similar unit with or without wheels that is used for temporary storage, containment, or transport of refuse, garbage, demolition debris, or other discarded materials. It shall not apply to the ordinary household trash barrels with a volume less than 100 gallons, to plastic bags storing in such household trash in compliance with the regulations of the town of Upton, or trash compactor trucks operated by a company duly licensed by the Board of Health. Then they go into users, company, contractor. That shall mean an individual, partnership, corporation, association, and other legal entities that contracts or respond to the request from a user that provide for the installation, maintenance, and service of a dumpster.
So pretty much that's just a definition, isn't it?
Those are the definitions. One of the things they have here is a commercial dumpster permit shall be valid for a calendar year with which a permit is used. A residential dumpster permit shall be valid for 90 days after the date of issuance. If the holder of the dumpster permit applies to the Board of Health for an extension, the extension of the permit for at least 2 weeks prior to the date of the permit expiring, the Board of Health may grant such extension. All dumpsters shall clearly display the company name, contractor's name, and address and telephone number.
What town is that?
This is Upton.
Still, okay, good. Yes, good.
So another part, the company/contractor installing, maintaining, and/or servicing dumpsters shall maintain the area surrounding the dumpster in a clean, odor-free, and litter-free condition, unless the Board of Health determines upon investigation that an unsanitary conditions were created by lesser.
I like all the information about having the phone number, the names on the dumpsters. And a quick question about the residential 90 days. Now, is that by zoning? The reason why I asked that is, as Alan stated, this particular place has a business permit to run his business. Does that constitute a commercial, or is it by zoning? I mean, that's something we can discuss and make our own decision on.
Right, that would be something you would want to decide. The other thing that they say, sorry. They say all users shall provide evidence to the Board of Health that the user has a written agreement with the company/contractor regarding the installation, maintenance, and/or the servicing of the dumpster. If the company contractor that installs a dumpster is not the company contractor that's servicing and maintaining the dumpster, an agreement shall be provided from the service and maintenance company. So I'm assuming if you have a dumpster by company A, you're just renting the dumpster, but you have company C servicing it, you'd have to have the contract from company C also.
And they would both have to have whoever does the hauling would have to have the awful permit.
Mm-hmm. All dumpsters shall be such a design and placement to prevent tip overs. No dumpsters may be placed in such a way so to block public way or sidewalks. The Board of Health may order locks, enclosures, screens, and covers for dumpsters if the Board of Health finds that such is reasonable to protect the public health and safety. In making such determination, the Board of Health shall consider a recommendation of the town of Mendon Building Department, Building Inspector, Fire Department, and Police Department. And then they go into all sorts of fees. One for a commercial dumpster, one for a residential dumpster for 90 days. I would assume, looking at their fee structure, that they're saying a commercial dumpster $25 per year. So I don't know if that's that gentleman you're talking about. I know, because he's not in the commercial zone. He's a residential.
And that's a determination that we're going to have to be specific about when we make that decision.
Yeah. It doesn't go into how.
Good.
It doesn't go into how often dumpsters need to be dumped, just that they're clean and, don't provide, they're not a nuisance and things like that.
Yeah, that's good. That's okay like that. One of the planning board's bylaws for sheds and buildings is a 20-foot offset to boundary lines. That should also probably be something like that, mirrored, whatever you want to call it, for respect to neighbors, to line of sight for roads and stuff like that.
Yeah.
This is something that we should consider.
Absolutely.
All righty. Mike, do you have any other ideas for us? Besides
really, it's really, it's tough when you're talking, somebody runs a business in a neighborhood that has a legal business that can operate out of their house, and yet you got the neighbors that are affected by his dumpster, whether it's line of sight. I think that's a good point, Andy, but it's really hard to, when you look at someone that can run a business out of their house, that they're not affecting the neighbors when they come up to switch a dumpster that, may sit there for 60 days before he has it dumped, because he's really looking to save money. The larger the dumpster, the less he's going to pay for the haul. The disposal is going to be the same, but it's really based on the haul is that one piece that he's trying to save money on. So he may be able to let a dumpster sit there for 3 months, and if it's not covered, you can end up with an exorbitant amount of water that would, make it smelly for the neighbors and stuff like that. But other than that, it's hard to determine what everyone can do when they can run a business out of their house.
Right. Oh, boy. Tom Ryder, do you have any thoughts on this subject, please? Guess not.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm clicking away over here trying to get unmuted. No, I was listening in. So is there a draft that we were working on?
right now we're just in discussion stages, trying to just come up with ideas of things that we would be considering for if we do put together some kind of a regulation.
Okay, yeah. No, we don't have anything more at this moment.
Thank you. Alan?
No, I'm good. I do like some of the things that Missy mentioned as she quickly tried to read through Upton's regulations. There are definitely some things there that could be, useful to us to kind of get things under control without being too overpowering. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so currently we mirror Upton because the two towns are so similar. And I do like the things that I heard. We're going to have to, I'm assuming Missy sent copies to you guys or to Alan for surrounding towns so that we can mull it over. I'm going to have to stop in and pick up copies of probably Millville's, Upton's. No, you said Millville is different.
Actually, Millville still has dumpster regulations on the books. So that might be helpful because when I looked at, they put them into effect in 2008. But one of the other things that they put in is a dumpster is not to be filled between the hours of 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. For residential properties that are close to businesses. For day commercial properties, which the containers are equipped with lids and be locked. There was another section.
What's that? The service times when they can dump them?
Yeah. When they can. Yeah, I think that's what they were saying, that they can't. You can't have someone dragging out a whole bunch of stuff and dumping in the dumpster between, like 11 at night to 7 in the morning, to cause noise and stuff like that. They also put in each dumpster must be situated so that not to obstruct the view of flowing traffic. Property owner or the agent property should be, yeah. So Millville's doesn't look bad either.
Okay.
And it looks like you might want to change the timing for that. But emptying of the dumpster's contents by the contractor shall not commence before 7 a.m. and not continue after 11 p.m. Except for business, commercial, and industry sites. So
should
that's
be 9 o'clock residential.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So you definitely. I think you still would want to look at Millville's because it is for dumpsters only. Regulations.
When you get a chance, could you print that up and I'll pick it up when I pick up that business card for lot 67?
Sure.
Could you email it to Alan?
I've emailed it to everybody. So I've emailed some tonight. I think I'm going to send you guys over a copy of West Boylston's, because even though West Boylston is not in our immediate area, it's not like dealing with a Milford, or I don't think, at least.
Okay.
But I'll send that over to you guys too. You might find something in there that you like about it and you might not have thought about.
Okay. Mike, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it and your wealth of knowledge.
I appreciate you guys inviting me to this. I'm more than willing to attend any that you'd like to invite me to.
Thank you very much for that.
All right, very good. All right, gentlemen. Well, thank you very much. And West Boylston is a municipal contract, so that's a good one to look at because it is a little different. But like I say, it's really just, you guys can set your regulations. I think making sure nobody picks up between, really, we don't run that late as far as contractors go, but between 5 and 7 a.m., we do start early in the morning. So not allowing anybody to pick up before 7 a.m. is probably good for anyone that's in a residential area, not more like a commercial area, but you've got a lot of residential out there that could be running a business and could have a container out there, and not allowing them to pick up between 5 and 7 is probably good to look at for your regulations when you guys draft your regulations.
Very good. Alan's got a question for you, Mike.
Hi,
Mike,
Alan.
Before you go,
Yep.
how have we been able to help you with the West, whatever it was there, Northbridge Road battery situation?
Yes, you did. So that's where I have not heard anything else. I know we almost had a truck fire on that one. We did have the truck fire in that. I know there was some issues over there. Andy said there was, someone has passed away at the thing. So I do have him checking it. I do have pictures if I need to send you the pictures of the type of batteries, but I do have Phil watching that location. We were just lucky we didn't burn the truck down to the ground because of the fire, but it's just one of those things.
Absolutely. I just want to make sure that, we're able to help you as much as possible. Yep. We appreciate what you and the company and Phil does for us. And we certainly don't want to make any extra work or, put anybody in a dangerous situation. So I was just hoping that whatever it was we were able to do was doing the trick.
No, it worked out very well. I appreciate you guys stepping up and helping me with that. I do have an excellent letter of recommendation that a resident brought out and gave to Phil personally, and he gave to Doug Harvey, which Doug Harvey called Phil today to thank him for the service. I'm going to pass that along to Missy. It was actually a letter that they said how nice Phil was to work with and what he does. So I will make sure the board gets that so they can see. Phil does a great job for you out there. That's why we try to keep the same driver in the town. And it just works out well that way everybody gets used to the schedule. Whenever he's on vacation, it's a mess. We all know that. But other than that, he does a great job for his 48 weeks a year that he's out there.
I was just going to ask you, did you tell him my recommendation?
Yeah, and he told me he'd quit.
Go ahead, Alan. Sorry.
I appreciate you offering that to him, but he does enjoy his vacation. He goes away with his wife. He really does have a great time. They go to different countries and they have a great time when they go on vacation. But that's really his defrag time. He doesn't call out. He's so punctual. He's so set on his schedule that everybody knows exactly what time he's going to be there. And like I say, for other than the 4 weeks that we give him for vacation, you can count on him like clockwork. So I will pass that letter along to Missy so she can get it to everyone in the board.
Along those
Thank
lines,
you. Go ahead.
Along those lines, Mike, the gentleman that ran the shredding truck for our hazardous waste day, again, a very good example of the exemplary employees from Harvey. So thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. That was probably Mike Cardillo that goes out there that does that for us. Like I say, it's great. I mean, we got a great group of guys out here, and we're excited that we're able to continue to service everybody with all the bad stuff you see around from all the big companies with what they're leaving and what they're doing. It's great that our guys are staying with us and they're happy to be working at Harvey right now. So it's a good feeling for me managing these gentlemen.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you.
Hey, well, I appreciate you guys inviting me. Anytime you need me, I'll be more than happy to attend one of your meetings.
All righty. Did you buy an excavator
Have a
yet?
great night. Is what?
Did you buy an excavator yet?
I have not. I've been looking. I've got everything pulled out of the bank, so I'm ready to buy one. As soon as I make my determination, you will be the first person I call.
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen. Missy, always nice talking to you. You guys have a great night. Thank you again.
Thanks, Mike.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
All right.
All
So
righty.
we've got some stuff to chew on and think about for regulations and see if we can start putting something together. What do you got for the water regulation? Well,
So Tom Ryder, I'm going to let Tom speak for the work that he did, but he also did some revising of some of the well regulations. Andy, if you want, along with the dumpster stuff, I'll put that all together and I'll just make sure I have one big packet ready for you.
Thank you. And that has the card. Tom actually did go look at that system yesterday, number 67 on Locust Hill. So I have to get that so that the next time he goes out for components inspection, he will have that.
Yep.
Okay. Am I the first one?
No. Well,
Bummer.
Yes, you'll be the first one with my signature on it, at least.
yes. Someone picked up. I meant someone who picked up their card before you. You, not the first. But an actual inspection, yes.
Yeah, but you're
So I'm really number one. All these years of driving truck, people have been telling me that. All right. So what? So you want to tell us what your information says, Tom, please?
Okay. Yeah. So I apologize. I tried to get this out as soon as possible. So I think I just submitted. I'm not sure. Did I submit it yesterday, Missy, or the day before? But it just was like too late. I was trying to get it over before the weekend.
I think it was yesterday, but that's fine.
Yeah. So it wasn't nearly enough time for you guys even to take a look at it. So I took notes from our discussion from before and just started adding the language into the Word document. And the electronically, I hopefully once it's printed up, it comes out the same way it looks like electronically, where you can see the changes that are made, the suggested changes that are made. So if you want to see what the previous document looks like versus suggested changes, you can see them in a balloon fashion on the side. So I added in the definitions semi-public water supply, which probably needs to be taken a look at and just make sure that it really meets the definition that we're seeking. Semi-public water supply, in my mind, is something that is something that the DEP is not approving. It doesn't meet the criteria for public water supply. Yet it's not a single well for a single resident. It's like one of these well fields that are serving like maybe a condominium complex or duplex or whatever it may be. So I figured that we had to define something that's kind of out of that typical realm. There's probably some more definitions we probably should put in there, like MCLs and SMCLs and public health guidance, the differences. So I put in section 3. I just kind of reworded section 3, which is requirement for private wells, kind of added the semi-public water supply information within that. And then we'll probably need to expand that a little bit more as we take a look. Section 4, which has to do with well construction and or destruction permits. I haven't touched that yet. The big one is section 5, well construction permit requirements. I started to add, looking at some of the surrounding towns regulations, kind of like took pieces of a couple of them regarding, private wells, should be on the same lot for the facility it serves. It's really under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 54. And I added some additional setback requirements. And we had a long discussion last meeting on guidance and secondary maximum contaminant levels. So I kind of took our correspondence, which like some towns are saying if your well has more than 20 milligrams per liter of sodium, there should be some sort of notification, some sort of information given, whether it's on a deed or notice. I don't think I really address that comment on how to serve the notice. And the same thing with secondary MCLs like color, turbidity, manganese. And actually, I see that I actually did a mistake on one of the secondary maximum contaminant levels, which I'm going to need to fix. Nitrate, nitrogen is that's not a secondary standard. But anyways, that's what I've done so far. So I got up to section 5.9.
Tom, I just want to go back to when you were redoing at the beginning.
Yep.
I think you had put down 18 months. A permit shall be granted. I want to say, I think somewhere in here, we have it right now as 12 months. The permit's
12
only
months or a year. I think we do. Yes.
Okay. So we would just that.
I forgot to mention that. Yeah, I did. I think the 18 months was based upon if you get a permit and it just sits there. So I think our requirements right now are 12 months. You need to finish your well within 12 months.
Right. The other question that I have for you is, and I'm not really sure how it works, is so someone pulls a well permit today and they test the well, they do everything they got to do. I get the results and everything's done within that year, but they stop construction or whatever, goes over that year and the well failed for whatever. And they do a retest, but I might not get the retest for another year. Is that acceptable even though it was done within the year of the permit, or do they have to give us something that's actually more current?
Yeah, so I think this might, there's another town that has the requirement that to get occupancy, like first you do the test at the wellhead, and then before the onset of occupancy is permitted, they need to do a test at the kitchen sink.
Now, when you say a test at the kitchen sink, are you talking about a whole new test? Okay. Yeah. So they're going to test all this stuff once when the house is constructed or the well is initially drilled, and then again before either a private well certificate's issued or an occupancy permit.
Yes.
Sign off. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And maybe we should note that it has to bypass any treatment, because don't want the condition of it goes through an air stripper or activated carbon to correct volatile organic compounds that are carcinogens. Say, oh look, it's clean water, but it's only clean because it went through activated carbon. So that needs to be noted in there. The test has to be a bypass of any treatment system. Okay. So that is installed. And then if they have a secondary, so I'm thinking if they do exceed secondary standards, that maybe there's a list of contaminants and specific or a selected variable of treatments that are an option, are potentially optionable to correct. Not that any one is better than another, but it was kind of more of a guidance, saying like, yeah, if you have a color issue, then activate a carbon. So
the other thing that I like that you added in here, in case Andy and Alan haven't had a chance to see it, is when you list out minimal distances, you've added a stable and manure storage areas of 100 feet. So maybe that will help in other areas that we've had issues with in the past.
I think it's a good idea to define what a stable in a manure storage area is, because a dog droppings, you know, I don't think we're going to regulate every animal that urinates or defecates on public or private property. It's, you know, I don't think that's what we're looking at, but any like stockpiles of absolute, you know, people trying to compost manure. You know, I think that's what we're looking at. Yes.
Excuse me, I have a quick question in that regard. If in fact that does get accepted and adopted, a 100-foot buffer, would that be grandfathered in certain situations, or would that have to take effect with existing situations where they would have to rectify the distance?
Yeah, like for example, if say your neighbor decides they're going to stockpile manure next year, well, that you know, we need to figure out how, you know, is this to permit or is this also to permit and enforce, not the well location, but the manure pile. So I think that's something we need to look at, is like, you know, which item are we enforcing, the manure pile or the well?
Yeah.
So for a new well, we would have to say, well, there's a known manure stockpile over there. But if that comes afterwards, then, you know, I don't think we have a regulation on. Do we have a regulation on stables?
No.
I don't think we do. So, yeah, we probably have to make some sort of contingency note on how to protect the well and what's being enforced.
So do you think that they would be grandfathered, or they would have to make a change?
I think I'm considering that we would have to tell the people who are stockpiling manure that they're stockpiling too close to a private well, that they need to move it, not move the well.
That's good.
Yeah, so I think that's something we need to digest on how to resolve that, because that.
AJ?
That could potentially open up a can of worms. Go ahead, Alan.
Probably something we could consult Max about. We've already kind of touched on that subject, but you know, maybe bring Max into that part of a conversation. I think if you have someone who has a property where they have a well and they have a manure pile, they're probably doing their best not to put their manure pile within 100 feet of their well, but that doesn't mean that they're being respectful of their neighbors.
Exactly.
So, you know, if it were brought to their attention on their property that they weren't doing their well any good, they'd probably be very accommodating about finding a solution. Unfortunately, they might not be accommodating if it was, you know, not affecting their well. So I think on that particular item, I would bring Max into the conversation. Just a suggestion. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
It's a good idea. Thank you, Alan.
Yeah, I would agree. And then if you look at the minimal lateral distances for all these items that are on there already. We already regulate, or it's adequately regulated in some sense. Most of them are, like sewer, septic, property line, landfills, hazardous waste site cleanups. Those are already regulated in some sense. Storm drains, not so much, but kind of, sort of. And dwelling units are through, zoning and building. So stables and manure storage areas, we don't have a regulation on the other side to regulate where piles are actually placed, or stables. So that's the dilemma right there.
Tom, back to the sodium level. What did you say that what it sounded like to me was right on the edge of a deed restriction, from what I gathered what you said. Are we going to let 20 parts per million go?
So when I was looking into it, is the Department of Public Health guidance for people with low sodium diets. So I haven't found that in the MCL or the SMCLs. So it's more of a guidance regarding intake of sodium. So some of the surrounding towns, they're suggesting that, excuse me, that it's reported to the homeowner if it's greater than 20 milligrams per liter, or if it's a semi-public or public water supply, that there's notices given as well. Just a notice. It didn't say anything about a deed, put it on the deed, but that's something to explore.
So we can release well test results, a well permit, so they can get their CO, as long
Yes.
as notification. Where would notification be made?
Actually, I did add another line. I'm sorry. It indicates sodium levels. We should put a document in the deed, like you were talking about. Identify, but that's just to identify more than just sodium, but other items that exceed the MCL. So
Sure. Very good.
Which makes sense. Like if you have an activated carbon unit to treat for some nasty water, there should be some notice. When you go to buy the house, there's clean water, but only because it's being treated. So you need to maintain the treatment device.
Okay. Thank you.
Tom, I would just change in that section 4 of where the listing is. It says, and recorded in the South Middlesex Registry. I think that's going to be Worcester Registry of Deeds.
Worcester, yep. Thank you. Yeah. I took that out of an adjacent town that has to be South Middlesex. Yeah. I was noticing that too when I was reading it. Yeah, so there's a few items here. There's an obvious glaring grammatical issues, and just need to make it flow a little bit easier. But these are like plain notes, just like I kind of rammed it into the document where I think they should go. I had nitrogen at 10 milligrams per liter as a secondary, but that's actually it's a maximum contingency limit, contaminant limit. And there might be a few more secondaries that I don't have listed in here. I think the other item that we may need to bold a little bit is that to do the well analysis within 3 years prior to the sale of the house. I saw another town had 5 years, but they had a long laundry list of samples to take. But this is something that could be done when because all these Title V inspections, require the inspector to go out there. Just add that to their list. That either they or somebody who the property owner wants to hire to go out and do it. I mean, the property owner could do it themselves. Just grab the kit. So, all right. Was there any other things you guys are looking at? I haven't heard Tom Fickner. Is he online today?
I do not see
No.
Tom on tonight.
Okay. All right. So I'm halfway through 5. And I'm thinking that, the well certificate, we'll have to identify that it will be issued upon proper drinking quality and quantity after the second sample is submitted to the Board of Health. Kind of identify that. Anything else you see, Missy, that we need to look more closely at?
Not right now, because of course some of this stuff I have no idea what it means.
Well,
But
you get a lot of the complaints coming in, so.
yeah, the biggest thing is people complaining of how they didn't know that they were supposed to do this and why weren't they notified and blah blah blah. That's the biggest thing. The only thing I can also think of is when you guys were going back to the sodium thing is if something, I think maybe in the private well certificate, maybe there should be some kind of like recommendation to, some kind of wording, how they should, test their well,
a standard.
and what they should maybe test for.
Yeah, standard, a standard, and make it kind of simple, a standard piece of paper that says, if they have to, like, if we make a requirement that they have to put in the deed, here's the standard language.
Mm-hmm.
Or if we're giving them guidance on, you now are the owner of a well, and you have a treatment device. Here's, suggested sampling protocol, when to do it, and once a year or whatever it may be, depending on what we're looking at. I mean, they should be doing it anyways. They should be doing it, every spring, at least for coliform bacteria.
Right.
So put some guidance out there for them.
Sounds
Like
good.
kind of make it easy for them to read, because they'll just fall asleep when they put it too long.
Yeah, if something like that, maybe, and we could also stick it on the town website on the Board of Health page, too.
Yeah.
More information about, some people move out here and they don't realize what entailed in having a private well and even a private septic, and what you have to do to maintain it and to protect yourselves by testing it and things like that. So.
Yeah. Yes. And I can talk to some people from DEP and get guidance too on, what they sent to some of their public water suppliers, their suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So when you get a chance to look at that, I'll continue to clean this up a little bit. So if you want to make some notes on the margin or send me emails of any notes,
Okay.
things to look at. Emails are good because sometimes I'm forgetful. So. When do you want to have this completed by? I put down tentatively like August 31st, but that's probably not really realistic.
I don't think that there's a need at this time for a stringent deadline. Certainly, we don't want it to go a year, but I don't know. Missy could correct me on that.
I would say you probably would want to have this ready. I'm going to say, ready to go by October 1st. Have all your meetings, review it, blah, blah, blah. Because that way, as subdivisions are coming online, whether they're duplexes or single-family homes, we're going to have 2 more coming in. So if you want them to start under these new regulations, I would say no later than October 1st. But that's just me.
Is that when, well, you're the one with the knowledge about this, is that when new plans, proposed plans start coming in so that they're ready to go in the spring?
It all depends. Like, we've got one that's already been perked for duplexes. I think I don't know how far they are in the planning board process. But once they get okayed by planning board and that's all settled, and it's not, especially if it's not a 40B where they would need ZBA approval, once they get the blessing from, planning board, they're good to go. So
Okay.
we have that one, and then there's another one coming on that's really just kind of, the perk applications have just been recently dropped off. So Tom will start doing those perk testing. And again, that's got a process it's got to go through with planning board and stuff. So that might take a little bit longer, but it's the one that's got the duplexes. I'd rather see you get things done a little, even if it's just bit by bit, there's some things I think need to be taken care of sooner than later, but that's my 2 cents.
All righty. Your 2 cents is worth a lot. All right, Tom, thank you very much. If you're all set with that, all that, I'll have to swing in and get a copy and review, and we'll talk about it again next meeting.
Yeah, I hope it, Missy, I'm not sure you got a chance to look at it on the Word documents. Hopefully it prints out, like you can see the comments versus the changes.
Yep. I think it will print out okay.
Yeah.
It should be good.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll take a look, see if I can gather a few more regulations to see if there's decent language to incorporate stuff in, so we're not reinventing the wheel as well. So, okay.
Thank you, Tom.
All right.
Thanks, Tom.
All right.
Thank you, Tom. Is that it, Missy?
AJ.
Yes, sir.
Another person that we might want to include when we're talking about the manure pile issue is Larry Pearson, or someone from the Right the Farm section of town, just to make sure that we don't get into a jam with them by being too restrictive.
I was with him at a funeral on Monday.
Yeah, Larry's very knowledgeable. He's very passionate. I know he's not a resident of the town anymore, but like I said, it might not hurt to show him a little courtesy and get his opinion.
I think that's actually a really good idea, considering Larry used to be the animal inspector, and to get his input.
He's quite familiar with most of the properties in the town too.
Right, and he did speak up on behalf of the people that have the rabbits. So, like I said, it might not hurt to get his opinion. Just trying to think of, different people that we can consult.
Sure. And I'm
Does
sure
it-
he would be flattered and he would love it.
Oh, I'm sure. And as far as the well regulations go, we don't have to rewrite every page to
No.
make a change.
No.
So if we're happy with a particular section that is gonna, maybe clarify some issues that we're experiencing, if we get that fine-tuned and processed and passed, we can always go back to other sections and make changes. So as long as we catch what we're finding is being troublesome, we don't have to go through the whole 100 pages. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Missy.
Your private well regulations they're only 14 pages long. There's only really maybe two more areas that he can review. One is he hasn't touched section 5.10, which is the private well certificate. And then the other section is section 6.0, which is well deconstruction. So really, those are the only two sections he has that he hasn't touched upon. The others is basic standard wording for like variances, penalties, disclaimers. So, those are pretty much, cut and dry type of things. So I don't think you really have all that much more. Yes, don't rush and things like that, but you only have those two other areas to really look at so far. But he might also find other things in the areas he's already looked at that he might want to say, no, you know what? We were better off doing it that way instead of this way.
Alrighty.
So the only other thing I need you guys to do tonight is your next meeting date. And
Tell me what it is.
looking at the calendar, it's probably going to be September 1st, which is the going along in your normal way of every other Wednesday.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. Unless you have something for me, I don't have anything else for you guys.
Missy,
Yes.
I recently had opportunity to be at a planning board meeting, and when they were discussing a new date, my customer and I have to go back. They were discussing a new date, and Ellen, I forget what the date was, and Ellen said, unless you want to come to Nantucket, you can have the meeting by yourself. And my point is, Jim said something to her that I always say to you. He looked up and he said, when are you available? Because we're not having a meeting without you. I laughed inside.
That is funny. That is funny. Because,
It's the truth.
So yeah, I might be taking the next day off because I'll be packing Caitlin up and moving her in that weekend to UMass Boston. So I might want to take a day off and spend some time with her before she leaves. So, and yes, I know she's not going to the ends of the earth.
Taking the next day off after that too to regroup.
Well, then it's Labor Day weekend, so I'll need to recoup that whole weekend because trust me, I'm gonna be. I'm so attached to my children. It's pathetic.
I know you are. That's a good thing, Mom.
So,
Yep.
like I said, unless you have something for me, I'm good.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Missy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, GS.